A very warm welcome to everyone gathering here today as people of peace. We're very happy to welcome you here to Pitt Street Uniting Church. As you probably know, we've a long tradition here of working for peace and justice. It's a very key part of our identity, and so it is an incredible honour and privilege to welcome you here today from many different groups and very many different organisations. And let me say that people of all faiths, or none, and people from all sorts of cultural backgrounds are very welcome here, especially today. And so I just want to offer you a very warm welcome. Now I'm going to call on Uncle Brendan, who is going to bring the welcome to country.
Thank you. The welcome to country. It's copped a bit of a kicking over the last few years, hasn't it? The welcome to country. We've copped a bit of a kicking over the last few years as well. I couldn't wrap my finger around the reason why. Why? Welcome to country. Why? And then it came to me, you either haven't been educated on what a welcome to country is, or you're just flat out racist. So I choose to educate on what a welcome to country is. And then by the time I'm finished, if you're still not comfortable and you still don't like it, it makes it easier for me to know what box to put you in. There's no hiding. I think since day one of colonisation, we've never had control over our own narrative. We've never had control. We've been told where to live, where not to live, what families we can be with, what's good for our health, what's not good for our health. We've never had control over our own narrative. And therefore that has pigeonholed us as a race into the them basket. Them. We're not us, we're them. When I got the email from work to come here this afternoon, I'm a big believer of charity needs to start at home. Charity needs to start at home. I was born not far from here in 1971, Crown Street Women's Hospital. You know, I was taken from my mother from that hospital. 1971. I never had the pleasure of meeting my mother. Never met her. Just over 10 years ago, I was lucky enough to find her grave. And when I found her grave, there were 9 names written on Mum's tombstone. They were all my siblings. I'm one of 10. All of us taken. My mother was taken, and my aunties and uncles were taken as well. But the story, and I because we're them, I try to take colour out of and race away from the story. My mother was 5 years of age. 5-year-old girl, at home, playing with her siblings. And the Europeans turned up and took them from inside the house, away from my grandmother, 5 years of age. Grabbed, put in a car, and put in a jail for 2 weeks. This is a 5-year-old girl. They were put on a train and they were transported to these places. I call them training camps. Cootamundra Girls' Home, Kinchilla Boys' Home. These were training camps. My aunties and uncles were taught and trained how to be house servants and slaves. They were sent out to white families to work, never got paid a cent for the work they did. I couldn't tell you how many times they tried to escape. They got caught and sent back. But this is our history. It's not them history, it's our history. I'm never up here pointing the finger, never pointing the finger. What's happened's happened. Can't change it. I am after acknowledgement. How are we supposed to heal if it's not acknowledged? How are we supposed to heal? And we just keep getting kicked after kicked after kicked. The referendum, majority of Australians told us to shut up. Plain and simple, shut up. I grew up believing we should all be treated equally. Obviously not. Welcome to country. It's not. Ernie Dingo did not invent the welcome to country. Why wouldn't we have a protocol about having respect for our neighbour's country? Why wouldn't we? We don't walk on each other's country unless we're welcomed on each other's country. Why wouldn't we have that respect and that protocol? You don't walk into your neighbour's house uninvited, unwelcomed, and help yourself to their food, have a sleep on their bed. Some of you might. I don't know what type of relationship you have with your neighbours. But an example of when we're welcomed traditionally on neighbours' country, and the only time we ever walked on each other's country unwelcomed is when we're up to no good. And there's evidence of that over at Narrabeen. There's an ancestor found over there, 20 to 30,000 years old. The Narrabeen man. He's a result of not being welcomed on the country. He wasn't from there. He was there unwelcomed. That was his final resting place over there. This is how important it was to be welcomed on the country. Now, when I'm welcomed onto my neighbour's country, these are things I need to know. What food can I eat on your country? Where are your sacred sites I'm allowed to visit and not allowed to visit? Where are your sacred waters I can drink from and not drink from? What are your totems? Because we don't eat our totems. And I always say this, the most important thing of all is, where is your toilet? This is what our welcome to country is. It's our traditional welcome to country. And in saying that, we're gathered here this evening on the lands of the grass tree people, Gadigal. Gadi means grass tree. Gal means people. I don't recommend eating the fish out of Sydney Harbour. I've lived here my whole life. I don't eat the fish out of there anymore. I've seen extra things attached to the fish. Some people can. Go right ahead. There are signs down there. If you go over to Gladesville, it says, due to the high levels of mercury, we recommend you only eat one fish every 6 months. If you head over to Manly, there's signs over there. Due to the high levels of mercury, we recommend you only eat 2 fish every 6 months. Does anyone stop to tell the fish? Because they don't stay in the one place, do they? Swim around. But we all live here. We all got to look after country. There's a story I'm going to share with you. It's around the creation of Sydney Harbour. Now, our stories talk about the creation. As I mentioned earlier, we've been here since before the beginning of time. Before the beginning of time. We talk about creation. Our creation stories are no different than any creation story in any holy book. No different. Our God is called Byami. Byami had a son by the name of Daramulam. Daramulam came down. You know what? I can show you the footprints of when he walked from one mountaintop to another mountaintop. Daramulam. There's carvings at Keringai there where Daramulam, he gave the local clan the law, similar to the 10 Commandments. When he reascended back into the sky, he reascended at a place called Little Yango National Park. You can go there and see the place where he went back up. And the creation of Sydney Harbour. Sydney Harbour's a flooded estuary. We've got carvings in the water in Sydney Harbour. Burra, the long-finned eel. Burra raised the waters to punish the local people for not following the law. And as a sign, he left Goat Island, called Meemail. Meemail is the head of the eel, as a reminder. When Burra moved around on the top of the land, he created all the rivers and waterways. The water followed him in. When he finished at a place called Parramatta. Not Parramatta, Parramatta, place of many eels. Did you know that every year Burra swim down the rivers and waterways into Sydney Harbour? They go all the way to Vanuatu and they come back. This is a songline. We've known about it for thousands of years. I remember when they started filling in the creeks over at Centennial Park, Burra used to, on top of the land, following the creek, to go all the way down to Mascot and La Perouse. From there they then go over to Vanuatu. Songline. Prior to colonisation, these were ours and our responsibility to look after them. You all live here now. It should be everyone's responsibility to look after them and keep them alive. I've heard over the years, if they lose their songlines, it only affects them, Aboriginal people. If we lose our songlines, we're losing the animal. And that affects everyone. That affects everyone. But when we, again with me and charity needs to start at home, we're a third of the population. We're 60% represented in all the jails of the population. 60% are Aboriginal people. We're the highest rate of removal for our children, still. It was appalling and disgusting what happened at Bondi. But then I sat back and I saw the government move mountains to help that community. Since the Royal Commission into Aboriginal deaths in custody, we've had over 500 Aboriginal people died in custody. So how are we supposed to feel? How are we supposed to feel? I'm just putting some food for thought out there. It's always an honour for me to welcome you to country on behalf of those Gadigal, one of 29 tribes that make up the Eora Nation. The boundaries for the Eora Nation start from the ocean, surrounded by three of Australia's most beautiful rivers, the Hawkesbury, the Nepean and the Georges rivers. In between those three mighty and beautiful rivers, there was 29 clans that made up the Eora Nation. No traditional owners left. None left. But the name of the clan we're gathered on here this evening is Gadigal. On behalf of those Gadigal ancestors, because I know their spirits are still in the lands and the waters. On behalf of Metropolitan Aboriginal Land Council as the cultural authority on these lands, under the Land Rights Act, it gives me great honour to welcome you here tonight. Welcome to the lands and waters of the Grass Street people. Thank you for having me. It's always an honour. And it shows me that respect that you have for our culture, our history, our culture. So thank you for having me. I'm going to come back. I'm just going to give my apologies. I've got to quickly run and pay this white fella Wilson for parking on my land. I did have a chance to say that to him, actually. I was at an event, Town Hall, Sydney Symphony Orchestra. I was literally about to walk out on stage, and one of the big bosses, and she must have been running because she was huffing and puffing, "Uncle Brendan, don't do your Wilson joke." And I said, "It's not a joke." "Why not?" "Oh, because he's sitting in the audience tonight and we're trying to get some funding out of him." I said, "Well, I'll tell him to give you some of the money I've given him over the last few years." I said, "You can't do that to me. I'm literally about to go out on stage. You've given me the golden unicorn. I've got content." I walked out on stage anyway. The battle began. The devil popped on this shoulder and the angel popped on this shoulder. And the devil was saying to me, "Go on, Brendan, you give it to him." you're never going to have this option again, never chance again. The angel was saying, it's not about you, Brendan. It's not about, think of the bigger picture. And I didn't say it. And I've been kicking myself ever since. There's a moral in that story. But thank you everyone for having me, and once again, welcome to the lands and waters of the Gadigal.
Thank you, Uncle Brendan, for that absolutely beautiful welcome to country and for being here with us today, particularly after the shameful displays that were faced by Uncle Pastor Raymond last week. I think it shows how much work is yet to be done here, dealing with and acknowledging not only our colonial histories, but the current racism that still exists in Australia and that affects all people here. In our capacity as the hosts of today's event as Australian peace organisations, this is what we hope to help combat in our work, which seeks to elevate the voices of local leaders fighting for justice, peace and equality for all people living in the Middle East. We also commit in that work to building meaningful relationships with First Nations peoples in Australia, grounded in respect, accountability and a willingness to listen and learn. Hello all, and thank you for coming together with us at this gathering for peace. My name is Elisheva Madar, and I am one of your 3 MCs for today. I am a Jewish Australian born with grandparents in 4 countries: Germany, Czechoslovakia, Yemen, and Palestine. For those of you who don't know the New Israel Fund, the organisation which I work for and represent, the New Israel Fund is a global charity that fundraises for human rights and civil society organisations in Israel and Palestine. Established in the United States in 1979, we are now the largest non-government supporter of human rights organisations within Israel. And we support hundreds of individual organisations that seek to defend the weak, aid the bereaved, protect democracy, and fight for justice for all people in Israel and in Palestine. As Sonya will soon tell you, today's event is hosted in solidarity with the People's Peace Summit, which occurred in Tel Aviv a few days ago. We'll provide more information about that summit soon, but that event was put together by a coalition of over 80 Israeli and Palestinian peace and human rights organisations, which are fighting for justice and equality. Of those 80-plus coalition partners, NIF has donated money, provided training or legal support for almost every single one of them, including organisations I'm sure many of you here today have heard of: Standing Together, Adala, Yesh Din, the Human Rights Defenders Fund, Rabbis for Human Rights, Kadaya, and dozens more. I now pass on to our next MC.
Hello and welcome to this very special gathering of people for peace. I acknowledge I stand on stolen land, on the lands of the Gadigal people. Sovereignty was never ceded. I pay my respects to elders past and present. I'm Nandini Sen Mehra. I represent Hindus for Human Rights Australia, a progressive and inclusive Hindu organization founded on the principles of Satya, which is truth, Nyaya, which is justice, and Shanti, which is peace. While we stand against the far right in our own communities, we also stand with other people on their journey of liberation, justice, and peace, including First Nations people in Australia, the Adivasi and caste-oppressed people in India, and of course the people of Palestine, of Iran, of Lebanon, and of all people from across the world who are facing the most brutal oppression and dehumanization. We also stand with those people in Israel who oppose the genocidal government and are standing firm in opposition to them and actively working to find pathways to peace. The path to peace and justice is fraught with many thorns, but it is every one of us here in this room and millions outside who are building a new majority of peace workers, and we will prevail. I want to take a moment also to acknowledge that in the best of circumstances, this is a difficult space for many to be in. And if anyone needs a bit of a time out, a breather, feel free to go outside, get some air, and come back when you feel ready. Lastly, I did want to say, and someone pointed this out to me and said I should share this, the sari that I'm wearing today has this border. It's called the Gara border. It's from the Parsis in India. And the Parsis in India came from Iran between the 7th and the 10th century. And why I wore this today is to also remind myself of our connections and the connections of humanity. And it's not only conflict and war that affect us all. Beauty and culture and art and music and all the beautiful things that we all enjoy connect us as well. And peace is not just, the cessation of hostilities and justice, but it's also time for us to have fun together and enjoy different things that come from different cultures. So with that, I'd like to introduce the other MC.
Welcome everyone, and thanks for being part of this peace gathering. One of the aims of the gathering is to express solidarity with the People of Peace Summit in Tel Aviv. We join 85 peace-building organisations in Israel and Palestine, including Standing Together, who are committed to an alternative future of reconciliation, justice, peace and equality. My name is Sonya Schollum, and I'm representing Sydney Friends of Standing Together, and I'm part of the steering committee. My father was a Christian Palestinian born in Jerusalem who immigrated to Australia 5 years after the Nakba at the age of 23. His story, like many others, is etched into the painful 76-year-long occupation of Palestine. For Palestinians, this remains a wound that has never healed. Acknowledging that pain is not about blame, it's about truth-telling, as Uncle Brendan mentioned. And it's about opening the door to mutual recognition, dignity, justice, and ultimately peace. Our struggle is one of many in the broader landscape of injustice and suffering, a struggle very familiar to our First Nations people who are still suffering today. Lebanon, Iran, Iraq, Afghanistan, Yemen, Syria, and other countries, and Indigenous people all over the world are suffering due to inequality and an imbalance of power. My heart is connected to these communities, some of whom are here today, and to those across Australia. People have had to leave their countries to seek safety and security, and I stand with those who are too often vilified or dehumanised, yet who continue to show strength, dignity, and an unwavering commitment to justice. It's that same commitment to justice and that same refusal to give up on one another that draws me to the work of Standing Together in Israel and Palestine. Change must start on the ground. Shad, one of the Palestinian leaders of Standing Together, sent me a message early on that resonated with me strongly. The future of Jews and Palestinians is intertwined. We can either continue living by the sword, killing and be killed, or we can accept that our fates are tied together and embrace solidarity. That solidarity is not an abstract concept. It's a real, difficult commitment to one another, and it's the only way forward. For me, reconciling the past 76 years means acknowledging the deep wrongs while working towards a future where the cycles of violence and inequality are finally broken. This is why I stand firm in my vision for justice and peace, grounded in the solidarity that will lead us to liberation. Palestinians have always been multi-faith people. The Holy Land is sacred to Christians, Muslims and Jews. It has drawn people across the world for thousands of years. It is a place of deep historical and religious pilgrimage. So when we speak about solidarity, we're not imagining something new. We're returning to something deeply rooted in that land and its people. If Palestinian and Jewish people are brave enough to join together to co-resist for their homeland, then we should not be deterred by any group outside Palestine, Israel. And that's why we're here today, because our hope for a just and lasting peace is not passive. It's something we choose, something we build, and something we stand for together. In a multi-faith community like this one, we already carry the values needed for peace, compassion, justice, dignity, and the courage to see each other fully. If the people on the ground, in the midst of devastating violence, loss, and deep injustice, can choose co-resistance and solidarity, then so can we. It's so heartwarming to see so many of us standing firm in that solidarity, that we refuse despair and commit together to a future where justice and peace are not just imagined, but realised. So thank you all. And now, when words may fall short, music can often convey an ocean of what we're feeling. So now I'd like to welcome music teacher and composer Joshua Winestock and the choir.
Our stories are different, but we are all human. Let's start and build bridges. We're done with division. Though our world is breaking, falling, with forces dividing to conquer, we are looking to the future, standing as one we're singing. Oh, 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 Wayna Musawa, we sing for freedom. Oh, 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 Wayna, standing together we'll make this world better. Despite all the violence, we'll face the horizon. In love in our hearts, we'll make our own song. Growing, learning, listening, kindness, equality, safety, and friendship. We are looking to the future, standing as one we're singing. We sing for freedom. In our Nandini, standing together, we'll make this world better. Standing together, we'll make this world better.
Thank you so much, Josh and the choir, for that beautiful and very moving performance. You wouldn't be able to tell, but that choir today was actually brought together specifically by this coalition of this new coalition of Sydney peace organisations, and are all volunteers who, like Nandini said, have realised the power that music and art can have in bringing people together and in allowing us to experience emotions other than our own. As we have mentioned, today's event in Sydney is one of dozens of global events being held in solidarity with the third annual It's Time People's Peace Summit that recently concluded in Tel Aviv. The It's Time Coalition is an unprecedented group of 85 Israeli and Palestinian peace and civil society organisations. That number last year was 60. So 25 new organisations have either formed or joined the coalition since the conference this time last year. These organisations are working together, as Sonya said, to build solidarity and build peace in an active way. They are doing that by ending the occupation, providing violence, ending with a goal to work together to end the occupation, violence and disaster through a political agreement that ensures the rights of all peoples to self-determination, equality and free and secure futures. Despite the ongoing grief and violence, this coalition has come together to transform what they hope to see as a peace camp into a cohesive and powerful force for change, capable of driving impactful, coordinated action to secure a just peace for all people. In the words of one of the partners of the coalition, Standing Together, they said, "Our coalition knows that endless war, military control, violence and death do not serve the interests of the people living in this land. Together we will succeed in creating a reality where all people in the land can live freely and safely." As I said, the conference itself concluded yesterday in Australian time, and I wanted to read you a quote from one of the speakers at the event, Ayman Ordeh, who's a Palestinian member of Israeli Knesset. And this is a quote he said in his speech at the event. "After all these years, all these sufferings and all this blood, we stand here today together to say enough. Stop the violence, stop the occupation, yes, yes to peace. And we are all here today proving that the aspiration for peace, despite what others may think, has not disappeared. It is alive and present, especially now. There are two peoples here and neither will vanish. War does not require partnership, but peace does. People of the past want us to live amongst the dead, but today, here, everybody in this room, we choose life." I am now introducing the first speaker of today's event, Omer Ovadiya. Omer has been a political activist in Israel and Palestine his whole adult life. He founded and led a youth movement which promotes structural change through citizens' assemblies and principles of participatory democracy. For these activities and many other protests that he organised for Gaza and for other events, he was arrested more than 12 times. He's a graduate of the Arava Institute for Environmental Studies and has worked in environmental and bilingual education, focusing on the climate crisis and youth activism and mobilisation. In recent years, he's joined the leadership team of an organisation, a joint Israeli-Palestinian organisation called A Land for All, which is one of the partner parties of the Its Time People's Coalition. This organisation has been responsible for crafting a groundbreaking shared political vision grounded in dignity, equality and belongings for both peoples. And in the words of Francesca Albanese, the UN Special Rapporteur for the occupied Palestinian territories, she describes A Land for All as presenting a promising and visionary alternative that centres human rights and mutual dignity. It's the kind of joint initiative that can inspire a change from the ground up. So thank you so much and welcome, Omer.
Hello everyone, Shalom. Thank you, Elisheva. Thank you for the organizers of this event, and thank you for the original owners of the land. I don't know how to do it because I'm here only 2 months, but I was really touched from the welcome. So thank you, and thank you for the church. So yeah, I was born in Israel, Palestine, this tiny space between the river and the sea, near Tel Aviv, and this is my homeland, surrounded by fear and hatred and pain, and this is the environment I grew up into 26 years ago. When I was 18, as everyone, I was invited to go to the army, and thanks God I was mature enough to consider a different option, and I refused. Since then, I'm trying to dedicate my life to end this bloody conflict, and yeah, so I'm here to tell you a bit about it. I think all these words, peace and justice and equality and hope, it's kind of overused these days because we're during one of the darkest chapters of this conflict, while the Nakba is ongoing since 1948 and the genocide is keep on happening. The ceasefire is not really existing. So it's really dark time, and it's really weird to talk about hope, but we have to do it because I don't accept that we don't have any choice. So I think I'll try to frame the problem that I feel in the current discourse. I'm not trying to convince anyone, just want to share my point of view. And the beauty is that we don't have to agree about all of it, we just have to agree that we are stepping into a different future with shared principles, and that's it. And this is enough for me. So, I think the discourse right now is around a false binary, whether you're pro-Israeli, pro-Palestinian, Zionist, anti-Zionist. This kind of discourse of identity politics is not, I don't think, serves any point. Right now, we just talk in our own bubbles. For the fact, Israelis and Palestinians' destiny, as have been already said, are intertwined in practice. We share the same land. Our economy is dependent on each other. Our environmental resources, I don't like this word, but anyway, is shared. Everything is connected and affects each other. And none of us have security unless the other side have. And we have to cooperate in order to flourish in this land. This is reality. So some of the facts are that none of the people is living anywhere. Israelis and Palestinians are there to stay, even if it's wrong and it's unjust and it's colonialism and it's apartheid, whatever. This is the situation, and I'm part of a small minority that acknowledge that fact, that no one's going anywhere. Also, both societies are not in the stage of post-nationalism. Unfortunately, both people still have the need of self-determination and sovereignty. As much as I would love to live in one democratic state for all, it doesn't seem like it can happen in the next few years. And I want to live through this era. Another fact is all this land between the river and the sea, some of us call Palestine and some of us call Israel. It's a sacred land for the three religions, and it's a homeland not only for me as an Israeli, but also for other Israelis and all the Palestinians, whether they live there or in the diaspora. And the conflict will end. The question is when and how. So why it's going to end? Because this is the nature of reality. Things end. Any conflict ends at some point. I want to live to this time. So what I really want to invite you now, it's a bit awkward and a bit maybe can feel hippie, but I think it's crucial, and it is to try to imagine. Okay, we have this muscle, which is very not in use these days, of political imagination, and I want to offer you to imagine how does a state that we want looks like, how this reality looks like when every children in the homeland have access to education and for security and for food and for clean water. How this place looks when everybody lives under democracy with equal rights, with citizen rights. Maybe it's not a democracy, I don't know. Maybe it's something else, more right. Try to imagine how it looks like when there is no supremacy of one side on the other. So when I tried to imagine this when I was younger, it was really hard for me because I didn't know how. That simple. And I really tried. So I think it's hard because we're really caught in this binary, it's us or them, or zero-sum game. It's one state or two states. It's right or wrong. And when we create this kind of binary, it's really hard for us to move on forward to something that is both just and pragmatic and attainable. Sorry if my English is not perfect, I know, I'm not from here. So when I for the first time heard about A Land for All, I felt like, yes, this is it. And today it's hard because it was before the genocide, before the 7th of October, but I still deeply believe in this idea, and I want to tell you a bit about it. And I'd love to expand after. If you want to reach me out, I'm here. So we imagine 2 states in one homeland, 2 sovereign states, according to the 67 agreed borders. But these 2 sovereign states, democratic, with sovereignty, but open borders. Everybody can move in the land, which is because we're all affiliated to all of it. People can live in both sides, both Israel and Palestine, but Palestinians are Palestinian citizens and Israelis are Israeli citizens. They can live as a permanent residents at the other side. This addresses the right of return of Palestinians, as well as of the situation of all the illegal settlers in the West Bank, which if they want to keep on living in their homes, they have to acknowledge that this is Palestinian state and to live under the Palestinian rule as residents. And this gives Jews and Palestinians the opportunity for self-determination without letting it go. So there's going to be shared institute, and they're going to sit in Jerusalem as the shared capital, one united city for both people. And this institute is going to deal with higher justice, keeping this agreement ongoing, and deal with the undetached subjects like environmental subjects, economy, and security. Of course, we give our minds to the compensation, create compensation and reconciliation mechanisms, and we imagine an international envelope to make sure this agreement is keep on going and helping with compensating all the people that lost their lands. So just 2 minutes left. So we are now in the darkest chapter, as I said, maybe the darkest chapter, but this is also an opportunity because this movement is growing, like Elisheva said, and we're having a momentum, and A Land for All is the solution. As a movement, has grown since the last 3 years. Very much. We have a lot of interest around the world from leaders and from grassroots movement. And I believe maybe it sounds a bit crazy, a bit utopic, but I think it's the most pragmatic solution. And if Europe succeeded making a confederation after the Second World War, I don't see a reason why we can't. And I think it's only a term of us being able to imagine and push reality towards the direction we want it to go. We don't have the privilege to say, no, it's a zero-sum game, we do something. This is crazy, these people not going anywhere. So I think your pressure from the outside is extremely important for us. My role as an Israeli is to keep on with nonviolent resistance because this government is not going to do it. But we're trying to push from the inside, and your support is super helpful and super needed. And we just want to expand this ideology so people have something to grasp when they talk about two-state solution or one-state solution. You got to understand this binary, it's not working anymore. We are in a more integrated, complex reality. We need innovative ideas to end this bloody conflict. So even if we don't agree on the past and on the present, and I say we, I mean you and all the partners, although the partners that are not here, let's work for this future because we imagine similar future in Israel, Palestine. Thank you very much. Shalom.
Thank you so much for that. Hope indeed is that thing with feathers that perches in the soul and sings the tune without the words and never stops at all. You've spoken so beautifully and so eloquently about balancing hope and pragmatism, and I really hope that more people can think in those terms and not in binary terms. Next, we have Miriam Wax, who's going to sing. She is an Australian-born singer, songwriter, music producer, and poet, based in New York and performing across the globe. She sings in 18 languages and a range of musical styles, exploring issues dear to her, including spirituality, mythology, feminism, sex, technology, religion, and climate change. Please give it up for Miriam.
I perform under the artist name called Isha, which is Hebrew for a woman's voice. And I'm joined for this first song, Keyna Wilkins on flute. We're going to be performing an Arabic lullaby called Yalat Nam Rima, Go to Sleep Rima, which has been sung by generations of Arab speakers across the world to help their children fall asleep. And as Uncle Brendan said in his beautiful and moving Welcome to Country, children are always the greatest casualties of war and conflict. And people living in war zones, parents, don't have the luxury of soothing their children to sleep with these songs. And it's not just the children, but the inner child we carry in ourselves that grows into an adult that is wounded. And so I sing this song today for children all across the world in war-torn countries living under occupation, under war, but also to the inner child in all of us, which also needs healing if we are to heal and if we are to build bridges. This is Yalat Nam Rima.
من تحت خيمة مجدلي اتشتشي واتشتشي والهو تحت المشمشي كلمة بالهوا لا تفلاري ما مشمشي وهيلينا تستك لك لك هيرينا تنرسل تيابريما وننشري هنا لياسمينا.
Keyna Wilkins. Actually, you know what? It's right here. This next song I'm going to do is a medicine song that I wrote, or I like to say that it came through, because I feel with medicine songs, it's spirit giving me messages, giving me the medicine I need and the medicine I need to share in the world. So many things have been done in the world in the name of God, and so much of the conflicts that we find ourselves in are happening in the name of God. And as I've been healing myself, I realized I have to reclaim that word for myself. I have to know what God means for me, and I think that this song came through to really remind me and help me reclaim that word and that relationship with God in a very personal way, without anyone telling me what it is, and having that relationship with my God, with the God that I know is a God of love, a God of truth, a God of light and tolerance and harmony. So I want to share this song with you today. It's called In God We Trust.
My spirit, the raging wild, and I am but here to serve what is true and just. God is the path I walk, in God I trust. Hear me now, brethren, remember your vow. The treasure you seek is the here and now. The chains that have bound you have no substance or form. Simply surrender, become the eye of the storm. For you are his warrior, you are a child. Your heart is the gentle lamb, your spirit the raging wild. And we are but here to serve what is true and just. God is the path we walk, in God we trust. God is the path we walk, in God we trust. God is the path we walk, in God we trust.
Thank you so much, Miriam and Keyna. That was extraordinary and achingly beautiful too. I'm very excited now to introduce Dr. Jamal Rifi, a self-proclaimed and fellow troublemaker. Yay. With over 30 years in community medicine, Dr. Rifi has made an extraordinary impact. He was a national finalist for Australia's Local Hero. He holds an honorary doctorate from the University of Canberra and has been awarded the Order of Australia for his service to the Australian Lebanese community, multi-faith relations and medicine. During COVID, he set up testing and vaccination facilities in the front garden of his suburban practice, ensuring his community could access care easily and safely. Please join me in welcoming Dr. Jamal Rifi.
I promise you one thing, I will not sing. Not especially after Miriam made me cry. And she did. Good evening, everyone. Assalamu alaikum. And I can say it in different languages too. Bonsoir, buonasera, but I will never achieve the 18 languages she speaks. So it's really wonderful for me to be here with so many good-hearted people. And I dare say, so many eloquent speakers, singers, and MCs. I'm really glad to be also with so many dreamers, hopers, idealists, eloquent. What brings us all together is actually probably the word hope. And not just hope. I'm glad that I'm here among so many doers. And that's what we are here for. Because we are doers. I have to say, a thank you, a big thank you to the Pitt Street Uniting Church for hosting us here together. And at the same time, I have to say thank you for the organizing committee for bringing the people and the coalition for peace here together. This gathering is very enlightening, and I hope for every and each one of us. Recently, I saw a video on YouTube. Television host Jon Stewart, he was doing an interview with Aziz Abu Sara and Muaz Inon. They are the authors of the book Future is Peace. I'm not sure if MCs are going to actually allude to these two great men. We're going to take a different angle. Aziz is an Arabic word I am an Australian of Lebanese background. When she sang Miriam, Yalla tnam Rima, it just took me to my childhood. And that's why I couldn't hold it. So I knew what Aziz mean in Arabic. And I thought it is the dear one. Then I didn't know what Ma'oz mean in Hebrew, but I knew what Mu'az mean in Arabic. So Ma'uz in Hebrew, I was told mean stronghold. And when I looked at what Aziz mean in the Arabic dictionary, it also means strong. And what Mu'az meant in Arabic, also the protected one. So these two great people, I reckon they met by the sheer name of their first name well before when they were born. What brought them together is the tragedy that they both suffered. As we know, Aziz is a Palestinian who grew up in Jerusalem under the occupation. His brother was arrested, tortured, and he died. And Aziz decided at that time that his brother died, so he needed to go through revenge. Then when he reached 18, he decided to learn Hebrew. And he learns Hebrew with Israelis and with a Jewish teacher. And at that time he realized, at 18, that revenge is not the way to go. Reconciliation is the way to go. Then years later, when the dreadful 7th of October happened, Ma'oz suffered a great tragedy. His family died. They were found in a burned house. Their bodies were there. Their family came in together. And of course they mourned. And they've decided that not to go for revenge. They go for reconciliation and for peace. Then it happened, Aziz picked up the phone, spoke with Mu'az at that time. And out of their trauma, out of their tragedy, out of their killing that took place, they found they connected and they taken healing is the best remedy for what they have gone through together. And only a couple of days ago, they managed in that coalition of, same as people in here, organization, to meet and to speak about peace in the Middle East. And thanks to all the people who met a couple of days ago, they gave the idea, they brought us all together, and thanks to the organizing committee for making it a reality, but I haven't finished my speech yet. Their book explained many things. Future is Peace is a book worth reading. And I'm just going to talk about my home country, the country that I was born in, and that is Lebanon. Before I do this, the two authors, they articulated a vision in that book. And that vision resonated with me quite well. But then in 2017, I had a telephone discussion with a friend of mine. And I turned to my wife and I said, after we'd spoken for about 45 minutes, and I said, I think I was talking to myself. And that other self is my good friend, Ron Finkel, who I have joined and worked with him in Rosanna. Initially it was Project Rosanna, now it's called rosanna.org, health diplomacy. And in 2017, I paid a visit to the area, and I went through Jerusalem, and I felt I belonged. And not more than that, I've told Ron, how can everyone who comes to Jerusalem in any part of the world feel that he belongs to Jerusalem. Jerusalem is not for a nation, it's for humanity. Jerusalem is not for a religion, it's for all religion and non-religious people. Jerusalem is for peacemakers. Now for that, I was sentenced in absentia in Lebanon for 10 years imprisonment. And I couldn't go to Lebanon up till last February. I managed to go, overturn that decision. And that's where I tell you about what's happening in Lebanon. The fact that I was able to overturn the military court decisions in Lebanon against me, it was the first indication that the so-called Hezbollah, which is the party of God, is no longer have a grip on the institutions in Lebanon. Because they had that grip, they wanted to silence me. But not just me, but also my brother in Lebanon. My brother is part of the sovereign coalitions in Lebanon. And a couple of days ago, they met with the current Lebanese president, Joseph Aoun, who wanted to initiate the dialogue with the Israeli government to stop the bombardment in Lebanon. And they made a call about the disarming of Hezbollah. Because for the last 40 years, Hezbollah was nothing but a mouthpiece and an arm against peace and for the Iranian regime, their ways of seeing things in the Middle East. They never wanted peace in the Middle East. They only wanted war. And the fact now, the majority of the Lebanese in Lebanon, Muslims, Christians, Druze, and others, they are calling on disarming Hezbollah. It's a major, major change of what's happening in Lebanon. And it gives me a hope that peace will be in whole of the Middle East, and sooner rather than later. Because we are here, and because we are hopers, and because we are doers, right? But we are not naive. As a matter of fact, whoever think that is going to exterminate all the Jews in the Middle East is a naive person. Because we will never in the Middle East, in centuries, want to exterminate anyone. As a matter of fact, in our religion, in our culture, in our empires that we had, as Muslims, they were seen as part of the communities, not just the Muslim, the Christian, and the Christians and everyone else, different nations. We've been there before, and we can be there again. Now, before it had a lot of negativities at the same time. Now we learn from what we went through, and we can do something better. And that is where Omer and people like Omer will come in, to give something better. So, I reckon I should stop here. I don't have a timer, and you are a very good audience. I think it's actually, if I keep going, I will keep going. But I'm going to stop because things are changing in the Middle East. It may be looked at being very destructive, but to be honest, hardliners, you can't convince them. And they are dictators. And probably dictators need worse dictators to get rid of them, for people and their doers to achieve a Middle East and a peace in the Middle East. Thank you very much, everyone. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Dr. Rifi, for those beautiful comments and for sharing so much not only about your history and your country, but also the stories of Maoz and Aziz and many others, Israelis, Palestinians, Lebanese people, and all those across the region who are fighting for a future that can be very difficult to see. I'm now inviting our musical performer. Ayşe Göknur Shanal is an award-winning classical singer with a diverse repertoire from opera to Irish airs, who performs regularly at Sydney Opera House as a soloist with Australia's top symphony, orchestras and ensembles, and she also performs overseas. A Brisbane-born Muslim with Turkish heritage, Ayşe is deeply committed to peace, human rights, and to the protection and preservation of arts, culture, heritage, and history, including Palestinian heritage and history, which she celebrates through her Artists for Peace concerts of Palestinian music and dance. Please welcome Ayşe.
Thank you so much for having us. I'm joined by Tarik Hussein on Canon here. And and Zakaria Partoredjo on the guitar. We brought 2 offerings for you. We are living in quite extraordinary times, and we are all here, I think, because we all want to be change makers. We want to be serious change makers, not just talk about it, not just fantasize about it, and not make fairy tales about it. And I was absolutely for it when I saw the title that said People for Peace and Justice, because peace cannot come without justice. And we are, I think, moving beyond the realities of two-state, where I think we have to start seriously thinking about another world, because we can't be talking about 2 states when Lebanon is now being ethnically cleansed. We can't talk about 2 states when Syria is now being ethnically cleansed, when Palestine is literally wiped off the map. There's no more 2 states. So let's really bring adult conversations about how we see the Middle East and how we can exert pressure on our government to make this happen. We are desperate. We are absolutely desperate now. So let's create the type of peace that we want, that's going to allow freedom and justice. First song is called We Just Want to Be Free, with the Palestinian songwriter Zak Matari, and with Zak singing melody.
Just hold on until the morning. Promise me we'll make it home. Can anybody find an answer? How much longer can this go? We just wanna be free. 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 praying this will be the moment. Whoa, I feel a change is here, so stay with me and just believe. Stand on the highest mountain, yelling out until they know. We just wanna be free. 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 We fought for victory, our generation's calling. Return with our old key, the doors awaited me. We finally touched the sea and watched the walls come falling. Restored the olive trees, just like they'd said it'd be. Free, we just wanna be free. 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 We just wanna be free.
So this one is called Tilka Kadea. This is an issue. They save sea turtles, they kill human animals, but this is one issue, and that's another. How to become a white angel, bear half a conscience, fight for freedom movements, annihilate liberation movements, distribute your compassion and tenderness over the killed according to nationality. But this is one issue, and that's another. How to become civilized, abiding by all terms and conditions, make all your words righteous, take trees into your arms, sugarcoat titles and names, while an army demolishes a nearby school, and when caught red-handed with blood, say everyone's a victim, because this is one issue, and that's another. How can I believe this world when it talks about humanity? Seeing a mother lamenting her child who died in a raid, hungry. Making a killer on par with their victim with all honesty and fairness. But this is an issue, and that's another. How can I sleep peacefully, plugging my ears, while a family is buried under the rubble of its home, forsaken, denied rescue, as if the earth in which they're buried is not of this earth. But this is one issue, and that's another. How to live in an open prison with bars of fire and ashes. Raise from the rubble, grab your killer by the neck, gather your remains and fight, and show the deceiving world how the law of the jungle is forced. Where's the route to freedom? How to take on a tank bare-handed? It doesn't matter if the world speaks out. Die free. Don't live in submission. Inspire generation after generation how to live and die for a cause. What world are we calling for? To denounce and condemn? Condemn all you want, for any condemnation of crimes in the slaughterhouse won't soften the powder's charge and won't bring back daylight. But this is one issue, and that's an honourable struggle.
سلايف بحرية يقتل حيوانات بشرية وتلك قضية وتلك قضية كيف تكون ملاكا أبيض يبقى ضميرك نص ضمير تنسف حركات الحرية وتنسف حركات التحرير وتوزع عطفك وحنانك المقتول حسب الجنسية وتلك قضية وتلك قضية كيف تكون إنساناً راك ومطابق للاشتراطات كل اللي كلامك لابس واق وبتهضم كل الشجرات بتدخل بواب الحارس جنبك جيش بيد مدارس وما بتخافش نفس لبس دم تقول الكل تحيا وتلك قضية وتلك قضية كيف أصدق هذا العالم لما بيحكي عن الإنسان شايفهم بتبكي ضنا علشان مات في الغار غايب ويسوي المقتول بالقاتل بشرف ونزاهة وحيادية وتلك قضية وتلك قضية سدادت أذنين وليل مدفونة بيت ممنوحة يخش يغد تشمعنا كل الأرض مجتمع كل أرضية وتلك قضية وتلك قضية
think we need a minute now after that. It was so interesting that the words that I didn't understand are the words that spoke so deeply to me. And this is the transcendental nature of music and just powerful, beautiful singing and music. Thank you so much. And now it's my great pleasure to introduce Dr. Monzar Emad. He was born in Gaza. He earned his first degree from Bethlehem University. He's a PhD in law from Western Sydney University and a senior policy officer with the New South Wales government, working on justice and crime prevention, focusing on multicultural policy and engagement. A Linking Hearts ambassador, he's also shared his expertise in the sphere of domestic and family violence in Australia. And he's the New South Wales Premier's bushfire emergency. He received the New South Wales Premier's bushfire emergency citation for disaster welfare efforts. When I had a little chat with him just before, he also spoke about nonviolent resistance and talked about Mahatma Gandhi. And it was a very short conversation that I hope to continue. Please welcome Dr. Monzar.
Thank you so much. And good to see so many familiar faces. It doesn't get any easier to be here again and call for peace and coexistence. At times, it feels naive. And yes, thanks, Omer, for emphasizing on that point, to actually advocate for just peace during such darkness. I even sometimes wonder if our standing together means ignoring the suffering of my Palestinian people. I, however, know for sure that it is harder to remain silent. It is even more painful to surrender to hate and fear. It would be everyone's loss if we accept dehumanization as the norm of our lives. I come to you today to be the voice of Palestinian children. For once, we need to see Palestinians from the lens of their children. My mom and dad were little children when they were forced out of their village in 1948 and have lived all their lives in a refugee camp in Gaza. I was one of the 15 kids that mom and dad brought to life in Gaza. Let me take you through a journey of what it's like for Palestinian children to live under occupation by sharing a snapshot of my childhood. I was under 14 years of age when the first Intifada triggered in 1987. I lived through this life as a teenager under most of those days under curfew. I still remember the first curfew in the refugee camp. We call it the 17 days curfew. It was the longest curfew we lived under. I was only around 14, 15 years of age. As you can imagine, as a teenager living under curfew, what it would be like for you. So naturally, I still remember I broke that curfew so many times where I had to go outside the house. I still remember one day where basically I had to go to the nearby village to actually bring food to my family, trying to be the protector of my family and carrying a bag of vegetables and coming back to a refugee camp. I still remember one day that I actually left the door unlocked and slightly jarred during the curfew where the soldiers stormed inside the house. I was lucky not inside the house. And they actually beaten my dad for not locking the door. I still remember when one day, when the curfew was lifted, I went to my high school. As like normal days, we had some clashes with the Israeli soldiers. And then my first experience when my best school friend got a rubber bullet that's landed in his head and immediately lost his life. His name is Farid Limghari. Farid would be around my age now. He would be around over 50 years of age. You can imagine the potential and opportunities for Farid to be like me today, with 7 degrees and having children and living a life of full potentials. And we have lost Farid, like so many. I still remember as well that one day I was caught being outside the curfew where I was severely beaten and put in military detention for 7 months. I also still remember one day I was actually standing with, literally, would be Hani, my older brother, standing next to me during a demonstration, and we were arguing together that we should perhaps go back home. And he received a bullet inside, got into his tummy, and it was an explosive bullet. He was in intensive care for a few months, but thankfully he survived. When I walked out of detention, you can imagine as a teenager, I was confused, full of rage, not sure what to make of my world as a Palestinian child. Thankfully, Bethlehem University welcomed me, and I got accepted to study psychology and sociology, full of scholarship based on a humanitarian ground. I actually still remember, weirdly now remember it, the first 2 elective subjects that I decided to actually study was 2 things. Music, to study piano, and the second subject was actually studying Hebrew. I've never thought it, and it never became clear to me why now, after almost 30 years, why I decided to choose those 2 subjects. Now it became clear why I decided to choose those subjects. Music to try to heal, Hebrew to try to understand. So instead of trying to understand the consequences of forcing a whole society under military occupation, we sadly normalized hate and violence. For 79 years, we have failed to understand each other. We refuse to accept that we both have equal right to be free and live with dignity. The past 3 years have led to our biggest moral failure by refusing to recognize that we both belong to the same human race, and we share the same precious land, and we both have legitimate needs to be free, to feel safe and free. A just peace can only be achieved by understanding, not through force and dehumanization. The real courage is to refuse that one people is better than another, and the real courage is to stand up against hatred, even when we are grieving. No solution will come out of violence and vengeance. The bombing of Gaza has only deepened the cycle of hate. Looking at you today, however, makes me feel you are the faces of a solution that Palestinian and Israeli people need to resolve the root causes of their conflict, which is the lack of acceptance and understanding of each other. By standing together, you represent hope over fear and despair, equality over supremacy and extremism, solidarity over polarization and discrimination. Thank you for showing the way out of the current mess by reclaiming our moral standard and ending the occupation and coexist equally. Thank you.
Thank you, Munza. That was beautiful. And I personally want to say thank you because for speaking tonight, because I always feel like you bring a sense of dignity and warmth, and it reminds me of my father's bear hugs. So thank you. So now it's my pleasure to introduce Keyna Wilkins. She came up briefly before. Keyna is an award-winning Australian-British composer, multi-instrumentalist and radio presenter, as well as a passionate human rights advocate. She creates music across a wide range of styles for film, television and theatre, and performs internationally as a soloist, improviser and ensemble leader. Alongside her, we also welcome Myfanwy Williams, who will be joining this special musical and poetic performance. Please join me in welcoming them.
Witness tree, after Seamus Heaney. The loneliest olive tree mourns upon the fallow, thin crust ground, and no bird rests beside its cindered leaves to soften nightfall's shrieking sounds. For the birds that coo and caw and chirp at day's dawning all sing for life, not slaughter. While the one remaining olive tree beholds, beholds and beholds. And remember her, the surviving tree, who swept the severed souls inside her bow and siphoned grief up through her woven bower. For the lone leaf that drank the dew surrendered rest to speak the truth of orchards felled before the infant slaughter. You who hold the light, because this is the real danger. Our eyes will adjust to the darkness, widening to swallow particles of hate. And you who have held the light for so long, you whose arms ache with the weight of centuries, I beg you. I beg you. I beg you. If the candle is too heavy, I beg you, dance. And if your feet cannot move for despair, then sing. And if you cannot sing for the screaming, then write. And if the pen cuts palm as sword, then sit. Sit beneath the giant oak, or the grass trees, or the olive, or the eucalypt, or the cypress. Sit beneath the giant oak, or the olive, or the eucalypt, and pray. And pray. And pray.
Assalamu alaikum. Peace be upon you. We are all candle bearers. We are all called to be candle bearers. In the time of darkness, this is what we do. We work to bring light. My name is Koki. I am part of the coalition team that organized this event, and I'd like to call my fellow organizing comrades up to stand with me. We will each come forth and light a candle and offer a blessing. And then a little bit later, you will all have an opportunity to come forth and light a candle too. For we are all candle bearers. We are all bearers of the light, even when the candles become too heavy. To begin these blessings, these messages, this bringing in of light, I'd like to offer the Al-Fatiha. Sorry. The opening, the first verse of the Quran. Sorry. It is offered so many times in our tradition, and offered when we need guidance in the hardest of times. Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbi Alameen. Ar-Rahmanirrahim. Maliki Yawmiddin. Iyaka na'budu wa iyaka nasta'in. Ihdina as-siratal mustaqim. Siratal ladina an'amta alayhim. Ghayril maghdubi alayhim waladdallin. Amen. The opening, we begin in the name of God, everlasting mercy, infinite compassion. Praise be to God, loving Lord of all the worlds, everlasting mercy, infinite compassion. Eternal strength of every living being, whose majestic power embraces us on the day of the great return. Only you do we adore, and to you alone do we cry for help. Guide us, O God, on the path of perfect harmony, the path of those whom you have blessed with the gifts of peace, joy, serenity, and delight, the path of those who are not brought down by grief-stricken rage, the path of those who are not lost along the way.
Hello, my name is Lyndall and I'm from Sydney Friends of Standing Together. And I'd like to acknowledge that we are all here together doing this incredible work. Peace work is hard. Peace work and justice is hard. And what a better way to give solidarity to those who are in the heart of doing this work in difficult places in the world, including Israel and Palestine, than to build a movement together. To build this movement together based on courage and love and connectedness, and to face difficult things while still holding hands. And I am pleased to be doing this with you.
Hi, I'm Steph Cuneo from Jewish Women for Peace. The message is simple: solidarity, solidarity, solidarity to everyone doing peace work here all over the world. Thanks.
I bring you greetings and a blessing from this congregation, the Pitt Street Uniting Church. You may have seen when you walked into our church that we've had a sign outside the church since August last year. It says, "We cry out for Gaza, peace and justice in Palestine." This sign has mostly garnered incredible support from the community. One very practical way a local community member has provided his support is a local taxi driver who regularly pulls up at the taxi rank outside. He's seen us sweeping down our stairs regularly. And so now he brings his own broom, and when he's waiting in the queue, he says it's really important that this church looks great, and he has regularly sweeps down our stairs as a wonderful support and solidarity for our sign out the front. So my blessing is our deepest longing, our aching cry, our quiet song is for peace. Peace that is born of kindness, peace that is born of fairness, peace that is born of justice, peace that is born of love, peace that we can celebrate with singing and dancing and laughing and feasting and joy.
No, did you want to speak? You can have a word. I'm here as an MC as well, but also, of course, representing Hindus for Human Rights. And instead of a prayer, I thought I'll read a little poem. It's called Spoils of War. I wrote this 2021, but I think, unfortunately, it still stands. They sat on a hill at sunrise. It was calm and deathly still. The months of fighting nearly done, the armies primed to kill. Today the fates would pick just one and millions would delight. They'd laugh and dance like heady gods so far into the night. The vanquished and their armies, their millions and their dreams, would huddle in surrender, retreat in defeat. And all this while, the hills would smile, the clouds go on their way, the trees would whisper, shake their heads, the wildflowers dance and sway. We are still to learn in our foolish hearts that none of this endures, that all the things we're fighting for are neither mine nor yours. The lands, the seas, the rolling hills were there before us all. And when we are done with fighting, they'll still be standing tall. Do they pity us and wonder at our stress and discontent, at how we crave and claw for more, unhappy till the end, when we could simply be alive to everything there is, and know in this too brief a spark, an extraordinary bliss? Seeing a bit too much of me right now, but I have to introduce Kim Kunio and Heather Lee. Professor Kim Kunio is a composer, performer, musical anthropologist, and social activist who currently heads the New Zealand School of Music. His many diverse projects have included working with the Kyoto monks of Tibet, setting some of the world's premier art collections to music, and working in Antarctica to set the first recorded gravitational wave to music for the British Antarctic Survey. Heather Lee is an award-winning singer and soloist who's performed in many languages at leading venues and with companies across Australia and internationally, including at the United Nations and the White House. Heather is regularly in demand as a recording artist and is often heard in movies, documentaries, and soundtracks across the world. Please welcome them.
Salam alaikum, shalom aleichem, friends. While we're setting up the sound, I just want to thank on behalf of Heather and I, everyone for making this happen. You who hold your hearts pure to say that there has been enough suffering in this world. You who come to say that I will bear witness to the suffering of the world and keep the energy to make things better in the smallest and the largest of ways. Each of you is a miracle. Just for 1 second, you met my sister Stephanie just before lighting a candle. I'm a half Iraqi, half Indian Jew. And this positionality is a quite weird place to be right now, isn't it? So we could either move to the right and say it's too hard, or we could stand together. And that's what we will choose to all do. We're going to do 2 songs for you. One is in remembrance of all our sisters and brothers in Persia who are suffering so greatly, in the divine language of Farsi. It breaks my heart as a Jew that I'll never get to go to Isfahan to see this place of some of the greatest spiritual beauty of the world. But at the same time, one of the wonderful projects Heather and I got to do many years ago was to set the largest Islamic art collection of the world to music. And part of that was finding the oldest version of the Shahnameh, the beautiful sacred book, a book that is really as great as the Gita. And the Shahnameh is this incredible thing. It's the allegories of taking on the external world, but really we're taking on the internal world in order to do it. It's like this notion of the inner jihad and the outer jihad. The inner jihad is so much more profound than the outer jihad. So this is Rustam and the dragon, the first one we are doing. And the dragon is the ego. The dragon is all the sum total of the vices that we see and we must slay if we are to be one. And then we thought there's such sadness, and for such good reason there's such sadness, we wanted to do a piece that gives a little bit of hope from the past, going back to Al-Andalus, this incredible period of time in the Second Caliphate, where Jews were the people of the book, the Dhimmi, and they received a right that they really didn't receive into the 20th century, apart from really places like Baghdad. It's easy to forget that Jews did much better under Islam for the whole history. And my family, which really dates back to the fall of the first temple in Iraq, is proof of that we were looked after in this culture, in the cultures of Islam. And so the second piece is this amazing thing that we had Arabic ring song going on, this incredible, beautiful, it was like a reimagining of the Baghdadi Caliphate that was partly influenced by new translations of the masterworks of the Greeks and Romans that were being done and sent back to Europe. The Europeans said thank you by waging war, of course. But then we have the Canticas de Santa Maria, this great collection. Alfonso X, this great military leader of the 13th century, cancelled the budget of the military and put it into the university system and said at the University of Salamanca, we need to look to music to bring our cultures together, these 3 monotheistic faiths. That gives us hope. And then we have the music of Judeo-Espanol, the first language of my grandfather. And it's such a beautiful language. And so we were going to do the second piece, A la una yo nací. At 1, I was born. At 2, I found life. At 3, I found health. It's a celebration piece because, as you said, my brother, but as all our speakers said, in their different ways, we will outlast all suffering. We will outlast all tyranny because they all fall. And what is left is the goodness of our hearts. We'll see you in a few minutes.
bond, balavonit Zamil Shubser Adorash nobody. Yeker Shimeshom Azonzul Badami. Yeker Shemeshil Yom Azor Nega kofdon shma ujro bedelir Zacha uro Vudu nicht hunno durod hunno zarbarsha Azur deshav kofti Ami balave Nome yadam bechom
Please, if you could all come up and, as you like, come up and light the candles, or actually switch on the candles from underneath. Just take your time while we do this beautiful Ladino song.
And giving you some warning, we might ask you to clap a little bit as it goes on.
Anzi veduemo Sonya, niña de mi corazón. Anzi veduemo Sonya, niña de mi corazón. ¿Dónde vienes que no quiero conocer? Dime, niña, ¿dónde vienes que no quiero conocer? Yo no slobbiri mi madres a las 4 me casé. Yo no slobbiri mi madres a las 4 me casé. Anzi veduemo Sonya, niña de mi corazón. Anzi veduemo Sonya, niña de mi corazón. Hoppa! Hoppa! A las 2 me engrandecí, a la 1 yo nací, a las 2 me engrandecí, a las 3 tomé amantes, a las 4 me casé, a las 3 tomé amantes, a las 4 me casé. Anzi veduemo Sonya, niña de mi corazón. Anzi veduemo Sonya, niña de mi corazón.
And with that beautiful and powerful number, thank you so much, Kim and Heather, we bring tonight's event to a close. I ask one last thing as you gather and leave today's gathering. Please take a moment to reflect on one lesson or truth or story that you will bring into your worlds and your families and your workplaces and your friendships from today, to pass on the message of change makers and peace builders in a world that constantly tries to silence them in their work. As in the story Kim just told, we currently live in a world that feels wrought by military might and violence, and may we all live to see a world that is replaced by, with a world replaced and led by music, art, and justice. The time is now. Each of us has a role to play. Thank you so much.